to realize, Jake Paul had his hands down. He was basically waiting for that knockout.
All right, listen, respect to Jake. He was a tough guy in there. Obviously, he moved a lot and made it difficult for AJ. And AJ's been out of the ring for a while. He's a bit rusty. It took him time to just get hold of him, but I was impressed with Jake. And listen, as I said to the geezer,
Anthony Joshua stopped Jake Paul with a 6th round knockout, and reactions from fighters and analysts quickly reshaped the conversation around the fight. In the immediate aftermath of the knockout, former champion Andre Ward broke down Jake Paul's performance against Anthony Joshua. He said he wasn't surprised Paul managed to survive, explaining that he expected a cautious, evasive game plan, even though Joshua ultimately controlled how effective it could be. Ward gave Paul credit for his toughness, especially for taking a right hand that would have dropped many heavyweights, arguing that durability should not be dismissed. However, he drew a firm line between toughness and elite skill, stating that Paul lacked the next level ring IQ and the lifelong conditioning that only comes from being raised in the sport, qualities that simply can't be learned in one training camp.
You expected him to last?
I expected Jake to fight the way he fought.
Right.
Trying to stay away. You don't know if how long that's gonna last. Joshua has something to say about that. So you don't know, but I'm not shocked. I'm not surprised.
Right. Were you, impressed by anything Jake did? Maybe he took a right hand to heavyweights have taken and got
Jake
up.
Jake is tough, man, and that's what I try to tell people when they try to completely discredit him. Jake Paul is not the face of boxing, and yes, that's disrespectful to the guys that been doing it from the crib. But you can't just throw the baby out with the bathwater, bro. Like, he's been training, and he knows enough in that ring to be able to, protect himself. And he's a tough kid. You gotta respect it. But that next level of knowledge that you need to be able to navigate that, he just didn't have it. He don't have enough time in it.
Right.
And that conditioning that he needed, that comes from the crib. That's not something you're gonna get in the 8-12-week training camp.
Meanwhile, former heavyweight champion David Haye also reacted to the Joshua Paul fight by characterizing it as an awkward night, where Anthony Joshua struggled to pin down a surprisingly mobile opponent. Haye credited Jake Paul for executing a smart game plan built on natural movement, slipping, and sliding, which he had clearly drilled extensively. He gave Paul full marks for showing up, taking his licks like a man against a far bigger and more established world-class fighter, and exceeding the low expectations of many who predicted a 1 or 2 round affair. While noting the eventual outcome was inevitable, Haye emphasized that Paul successfully implemented his plan at times, landing shots and avoiding the biggest fight-ending punches.
The awkward night, AJ couldn't get to grips with him, obviously. Jake had a really good game plan, moving his feet, lateral movement, slipping and sliding. Obviously been practicing that a lot in sparring, and you got to give him credit. He came out there and gave it a good go, took his licks like a man, didn't complain. Fighting a much bigger, more established, world-class fighter. So that's usually what happened. What was always going to happen. A lot of people thought it would only last 1 round, 2 rounds, but you got to give Jake credit. He went out there and had a solid game plan and was implementing it at times. Was landing shots and was avoiding getting hit with the big shots. But
in the aftermath of the fight, Anthony Joshua's promoter, Eddie Hearn, also gave an assessment. He credited Jake Paul for being a tough opponent whose constant movement frustrated a potentially rusty Joshua, taking time to solve the puzzle. Hearn was particularly impressed that Paul withstood heavy shots that would have knocked out many others. He also acknowledged Paul's tactical intelligence, suggesting a more aggressive approach would have led to an earlier defeat. Ultimately, Hearn framed the bout as expected, highlighting the clear gulf in class that made the outcome inevitable, while giving Paul fair play for exceeding round expectations.
Listen, respect to Jake. He was a tough guy in there. Obviously, he moved a lot and made it difficult for AJ. And AJ's been out of the ring for a while. He's a bit rusty. It took him time to just get hold of him, but I was impressed with Jake. And listen, as I said to the geezer, at the end of the day, he took shots that a lot of people would have got knocked out clean out by, especially at the end.
Following Jake Paul's unexpected 6-round performance against Anthony Joshua, Lennox Lewis was asked for his immediate reaction to the fight. Lewis noted a critical technical flaw, observing that Jake Paul had spent much of the fight with his hands down, essentially waiting for a single knockout punch. He gave Paul credit for exceeding expectations by lasting 6 rounds instead of the predicted 2. However, Lewis pointed out that Joshua's superior conditioning was a key factor, as as Paul's constant movement around the ring, a tactic he wasn't accustomed to, drained his energy significantly.
Time, and you got to realize, you know, Jake Paul had his hands down. He was basically waiting for that knockout.
Just let me know your thoughts on Jake going 6 rounds with AJ.
You know, the fact that he did that, it was good because, you know, we didn't think it was going to go 6 rounds. We thought it was going to go 2. So the fact that he made 6 rounds is an accomplishment for Jake Paul.
Was there anything that stuck out with you from the fight?
Yeah, really, who was in better shape? I thought that Josh was in great shape compared to, you know, Jake Paul, because he was running around the ring. And that takes out a lot of energy, especially when you're not used to it.
From a deeply personal perspective, Logan Paul reacted with overwhelming pride in his brother Jake's performance against Anthony Joshua. He saw the fight as a moral victory, marveling that Jake not only survived a punch that had knocked out heavyweights, but also lasted 6 rounds. Far exceeding expectations, Logan even believed Jake won 4 of those rounds. He emphasized his brother's resilience, fighting through a broken jaw and a rolled ankle, and continually contrasted Jake's label as a YouTuber with the immense courage it took to face a larger world-class champion. For Logan, the result was less important than the heart and toughness his brother displayed.
Logan, what's up, man? What's your reaction to it?
I'm so proud of him. My mom has
Your brother fought his ass off, man. I mean, other heavyweights have taken that right hand and only took 1.
I'm just so proud of him. That was incredible. In my view, that was a victory on all fronts. Like, minus the actual victory, of course, but bro, like, no one expected him to last 6 rounds with AJ. In my opinion, he won 4 of them. People argue that he at least won 3. No one expected him to last that long. Rolled his ankle, broke his jaw, still fucking fighting, man. Like, that's toughness. You know, most people wouldn't have the balls ever to step in a boxing ring of their life. He stepped in a boxing ring with one of the baddest men on the planet. Who's 40 pounds heavier than him and 6 inches taller. That's insane. He's one of the most skilled fighters in the planet. My brother has a fucking YouTuber went 6 rounds with him in a fight with a broken jaw and rolled ankle. I'm so proud of him. That was just unbelievable.
Boxer Rolly Romero expressed surprise at Jake Paul's performance against Anthony Joshua. He highlighted that Paul landed some crazy punches and noted that Paul was fighting outside his natural weight class, which Romero said explained why even a clean right hand didn't do more damage. Looking ahead, Romero was straightforward. He wants to see Paul fight again and explicitly stated that he would like to personally tangle with him. He also criticized the wider boxing world for not giving Paul enough credit for what he achieved in the ring.
Did you see it like ending, like the way it was going?
Man, Jake Paul landed some punches, bro. Some crazy punches, man. Because, you know, it's not his weight class.
Right. I was gonna say he landed that right hand flush and it didn't seem to do anything.
Not his weight class.
Right. So what's next? Is it keep fighting? Do you think you did well enough to keep fighting?
I want to see Jake Paul in there again.
You want to see him again?
I want to see him. And I'm trying to think of with who, but you guys don't give Jake Paul enough credit, bro.
Following the intense anticipation for the crossover bout, the former champion Paulie Malignaggi expressed profound disappointment, stating he had hoped to credit Paul for simply having the courage to step into the ring and accept a noble defeat. Instead, Malignaggi criticized Paul for doing nothing but run for his life, using the large ring exclusively for survival, with constant movement and defensive clinching. He argued that Paul never attempted to genuinely win a moment of the fight, only occasionally lunging with a wild punch while angling his body so severely he was rendered ineffective. Malignaggi's core verdict was that the fight was a joke, with Paul failing to earn any respect by refusing to engage and going out on his shield.
Paulie Malignaggi for Paulie TV. What did I just watch? All right, Jake Paul versus Anthony Joshua is over. Thank God it's over. What a joke of a fight. I was hoping that I could at least give Jake credibility and saying, you know what, he took this challenge. You know, even if it's for a lot of money, he still had the guts to walk to the ring and all this stuff. So I was hoping, you know, you're gonna get knocked out anyway, dude. Like, I was hoping I could say, you know what, because he earned the respect of boxing fans by going out on his shield. The guy just ran for his life. I just watched Jake Paul run for his life for like 5-6 rounds. Literally just run for. He was doing football jukes. You guys watched that fight? Ring was big. I made a freaking point about that ring being big. And he used it to his advantage in terms of survival in every way he could. I mean, this guy literally never tried to win a second of the fight. He was trying to throw a home run punch every once in a while. But notice every time he got in the clinch, he just went down. Like he just hugged Anthony Joshua and then like would go down, and the referee would call it a slip and give him a break.
In a direct analysis of the knockout, Teofimo Lopez argued that Jake Paul spent the fight killing the clock. While he conceded the game plan was flawed and Paul should have used his jab more, Lopez ultimately attributed the loss to conditioning. Despite these tactical criticisms, he gave Paul credit for bravely stepping up to a monumental challenge and performing under pressure. He concluded by stating he wants to see Paul fight again, but against someone his own size.
What did you make of the knockout though?
Hey man, he was killing the clock. Jake Paul was killing the clock.
Do you think he fought the right fight?
Sure, you fighting AJ, man. Maybe not the right, best game plan. Should have thrown a little bit more strong jabs. Conditioning though, that's really what it got to.
What impressed you about Jake Paul tonight? Obviously it was a brave and tall task there, but what did you make of it?
Kudos to him, man, stepping up to the plate like that. A lot of people could boo. He was killing the clock, but he did his thing. I would like to see Jake Paul come back again and really fight somebody his size.
Moving ahead, former champion Antonio Tarver offered a more balanced assessment, crediting Jake Paul's durability while acknowledging Anthony Joshua's inevitable class. Tarver stated you had to take your hat off to Paul for surviving as long as he did, and making it tough for AJ, noting that Paul even took the champion's powerful right hand and uppercut a few times, shots that have finished other heavyweights. However, he emphasized that for a two-time champion and Olympian like Joshua, it was always just a matter of time before a flush shot ended the fight. When asked if he wanted to see Paul continue fighting, Tarver agreed, but with the crucial caveat that future opponents needed to be picked appropriately for his level.
Yeah, you got to take your hat off to Jake Paul for surviving as long as he did. He made it tough for AJ, but AJ said that right hand found his home, bro. You talk about a two-time heavyweight champion, Olympian. It was just a matter of time. But for Jake to last that long and survive, you got to take your hat off to him.
And he took the right hand a couple times. Other heavyweights haven't, right?
He got that uppercut in there too.
No, but I'm saying Jake took the right hand a couple times. Other heavyweights have won and done.
That was the only time that he landed flush. One time that got him out of there, that was the only time he landed flush.
But you still want to see Jake keep fighting? I mean, he did well, like you said.
Man, yeah, pick him right, though. Pick him right.
Right, for sure. Antonio, thank you, sir.
In a broader analysis, commentator Wade Plemons synthesized the polarizing reaction to the fight's slow pace. He noted it lasted longer than expected due to Jake Paul's survival tactics disrupting Joshua's rhythm, and that the casual online audience had dominated the narrative with memes and criticism. Plemons offered a balanced verdict. While Joshua didn't look his most aggressive and Paul refused to engage, the ultimate outcome was always inevitable, a mix of an underperforming champion and a challenger fighting only to survive, which merely delayed the final result.
Fight like this, the casual audience takes over. It's being flooded on Twitter right now. I'm seeing, the memes of people being dragged on the floor by holding onto a leg and, the whole thing. But I think Jake fought a very, how do I survive long enough to land a right hand type of fight? And it made it a little difficult for AJ to get his timing. No excuses. AJ didn't look great. I'll be honest. He didn't look great. He didn't look like, an AJ we thought we were going to get, the marauder, the guy that was going to come forward and bang out Jake in one round. Pause. But, so I just think it was a mix of AJ didn't look great. Jake didn't engage as much as people maybe thought he would, even though I kind of thought this is exactly how the fight would go. And it took AJ a little bit longer, but eventually he got the job done.
In his own words, Anthony Joshua offered a psychological and respectful post-fight assessment. He reflected on his pre-fight warning about the mental toll of boxing, reaffirming his goal to take your soul and force an opponent to quit or be knocked out. While Joshua admitted he wished for an earlier finish, he acknowledged Jake Paul's genuine spirit and heart for entering the ring and getting up from knockdowns. He concluded that while a fighter needs a certain instinct Paul may lack, he takes his hat off to Paul for attempting a challenge others avoided.
Push on, but the coaches, it's really up to them. They're the ones that guide me. Fighters will always fight, coaches are there to guide us.
Following his respectful remarks about the fight itself, Anthony Joshua shifted focus to his future, revealing that negotiations for his next move are already underway. He confirmed that promoter Eddie Hearn has been in talks with officials in Turkey and with Saudi Arabia's Riyadh season, and that these details will now be passed to his training and management team. Joshua stressed that the final decision will heavily depend on the guidance of his coaches, who best understand his physical condition and recent toll, while expressing his personal strength and eagerness eagerness to continue. He deferred to his team's judgment, acknowledging that while fighters always want to fight, coaches provide essential perspective. He concluded by stating he hopes to have solid news within a week.
But the coaches, it's really up to them. They're the ones that guide me. Fighters will always fight, coaches are there to guide us.
Transitioning from the focus on Paul's performance, analyst Liam Goff shifted the critique squarely onto Anthony Joshua. Goff dismissed any notion of the fight being fixed or scripted, instead arguing that it exposed significant flaws in the champion's approach. He stated the bout showed Joshua was not good at cutting off the ring, remained overly cautious, and still had a lot to work on. Goff concluded by predicting that Tyson Fury, watching this display, would have an absolute field day criticizing Joshua over these perceived technical deficiencies.
I don't feel it was fixed or scripted. I think that AJ is just, it showed that he's not good at cutting the ring off. It showed that he is still very cautious. It showed that there's still a lot that needs to be worked on. And Tyson Fury, I'm sure, is watching this. He probably has already tweeted or made a video about it. Having a field day. He is going to have an absolute field day with Anthony Joshua over this.
Vidal Riley broke down the failed strategy. Vidal Riley analyzed Jake Paul's strategy as a predictable and failed gamble. He confirmed his own pre-fight prediction that Paul would try to run and land one powerful punch. While Paul did land one such wild shot, Riley noted it did not affect Anthony Joshua, whose calm reaction signaled the true beginning of the end. Riley explained that Paul's only hope was never to outbox Joshua, but to be passive and pray for a single fight-altering punch. He concluded by expressing bewilderment that the public was confused, as this one-dimensional high-risk plan was transparent from the start.
On the perimeter and throw a blind overhand. Did he land one of them? Yes. Did we see the spray come off AJ's head? Yes. Did we see AJ get affected like the boy hit him? No. Of course not, no. The moment Jay hit him with that and spray came out and AJ was like, continue to hunt. I was like, yeah, it's a matter of time. Because that was Jake's only hope. He was never going to tactically box a fight that could defeat AJ. It was a matter of being passive, being elusive, and hoping that one of the swings that I throw lands, makes AJ look vulnerable like we've seen him previously, and then I'm going to shock the world. That was his whole game plan. I don't know why everyone's mad confused, bro. Like,
in the end, Anthony Joshua's 6th round knockout delivered the expected result, but the reactions revealed a much deeper conversation. While some praised Jake Paul's toughness and willingness to step into dangerous territory, others exposed the clear limits between survival and elite boxing ability. The fight became less about the knockout itself and more about what it proved. Joshua's class, Paul's ceiling, and the gap that still exists between spectacle and true championship level. Now, with this chapter closed, attention shifted to what comes next, as all signs pointed toward Joshua's long-awaited showdown with Tyson Fury, reportedly set for September 2026, a fight that could define his legacy. If you want more breakdowns like this, covering real reactions and real analysis from across the boxing world, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next one.